ain't sleeping till Hollywood, Hollywood. We ain't sleeping. Hello, everyone. My name is McDonald.
And my name is Gaelyn Smith.
And you are listening to No Sleep Till Hollywood.
Mm.
We're not sleeping until we make it in Hollywood. And while we're up, we will be discussing the state of the industry and our place in it. And the industry is in a state right now.
It's a state. It's a state of confusion, okay? This is not of Jesus. That's all I know. The Lord is not the author of confusion. And right now, Hollywood is in much confusion. Today, we're going to talk about the strikes that are going on. It is an update on the strikes. As you guys know, we opened season 2 with the WGA strike. And now we are going to talk about the SAG-AFTRA strike, as well as the WGA strike, because it is on day 81. It's not day 81. Today is the 17th.
It'll be day 81 as of this podcast being released.
There we go. The note made sense. I didn't process it, guys. But it'll be 81 days by the time you're hearing it, this episode. And as you guys know, the WGA is striking for a lot of different reasons. Residuals on streaming being one of the big ones. AI being one of the big ones. If you want like an in-depth breakdown about the WGA specific, go listen to episode 1 of No Sleep Till Hollywood. Or you can also visit my TikTok where there are many a video about that. But we're going to get into this SAG-AFTRA strike. So one of the things I want to point out as we get into it, this is the first time that both guilds have been on strike together since 1960. And do y'all know who was the president of the Actors Union at that time? Y'all not going to believe this one. Ronald Reagan. He was the SAG president at the time.
That man just like being president.
Quite literally. I guess now, we're trying to figure out, is like the SAG-AFTRA president to presidential president pipeline, is that a thing? Like, I don't know. We'll have to see what.
I'd love to be able to say the nanny's my president. Like, what?
But I don't know. Like, the nanny, yeah. Fran Drescher, like, her other politics are a little, yeah. Controversial. I don't know enough to have enough opinions on everything, but I just know that it sounds controversial from the way that people talk about it, and I need to do a little bit more research to know the tea. Look, I'm not going to call the woman, I'm not going to call her crazy when I don't know enough to call her, shiesty. People seem to be upset with some of the things that she has said and done. I know she was an anti-vaxxer, and that was a little bit of an issue when we were trying to come back to work after the, COVID pandemic. That was a problem. Because one thing about me, I got that vaccine immediately. Okay.
Shot me up twice.
Boom, boom. Okay. I was in New York, like they said, educators. I said, I am a teaching assistant. Gotta go. But right now, the SAG-AFTRA union, which is the union that represents screen actors, it also represents like entertainment journalists and some influencers, but they are most known for representing screen actors. They went on strike as of last Thursday was the announcement, and Friday was the first day of strike. So today that we are recording it is day 2 of their strike. And right now it's preventing them from doing a number of things. We're going to get into that a little bit later about what they can and cannot do and why they're striking.
I do find it interesting that 63 years, right, since they both struck together, and relatively speaking, same issue.
Same issues. People ain't making no money.
Right. And innovation with technology just messing up the studios thinking they could get one over because technology is different. But no, like, hello, inflation's a thing. So why wouldn't renegotiation be? Come on.
Also, if we look at when we look at what writers and actors were asking for in terms of increases across the 3 unions, the WGA, Writers Guild of America, the DGA, Directors Guild of America, and SAG-AFTRA, which is for on-screen talent. It's on-screen and voiceover talent, to make it broad. The total number of money that it would cost annually to give them, I think it's like a 3% increase, essentially, is what it really comes out to, is the total salary of one CEO from an AMTP company. It's like $100 and something million a year.
You know, we may have to
for
cut
3 units.
We may have to cut what I'm about to say, but if I read correctly, Bob Iger made $31 million last year.
No, it's more than that. It's more than that. That man made 45.8 mil.
But wasn't like his like salary check like maybe 20 million of that?
Don't worry, I have the graphic.
Bonus,
don't worry, babes, I got the graphic.
because his bonus check
is what
really skyrocketed.
All right, so Bob Eags, you're right. Okay, so 21.7 million was actually what he made in 2020. He made 45.9 million in 2021. 13% stock performance decrease, but his salary was doubled.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it was actually increased 119%. It wasn't even double, it was 119%. He's not making the most of all of the CEOs, I will point out. He's number 4.
But this is insane.
But it's insane. Like, and essentially, like, if we look at the number one guy, because since we named names, the number one guy, Ari Emanuel of Endeavor, he made $308.2 million in 2021. 2,040% increase from 2020, where he made $14.4 million. And basically, what's crazy is that, like I said, the increases that people are asking for would amount to literally, it's like $180, $190 million, which is less than the top 2.
Alone. Yeah. No.
So it's just like very crazy to me when, I think the reason everybody wants to jump on him is because he's the main person being like, the unions are unreasonable. Sir, I'm sorry. It's unreasonable to be making $50 million a year when you just sign contracts. And smile in people's faces. Like, you don't write nothing. You don't act in nothing. You're not directing nothing. You produce nothing. You're not even crafty, bro. Like, you do nothing.
Manage at best.
At best. Adios mío.
Yeah.
I'm not even Spanish, and it makes me just feel. It just makes me it makes me angry in Spanish. I want to throw a chancla. Like, I just don't.
A chancla?
A chancleta?
Yeah, a chancleta.
I feel like I've seen both. And I usually say chancleta, but I feel like I've seen chancla recently, and I'm very confused.
All right.
Again, I'm not Spanish. It just makes me angry in Spanish.
How dare they?
How dare they? So, Caleb, with everything that's going on right now, obviously we are people who are on the outside of the bubble, but, our careers are very much going to be impacted by what we're seeing. And also, like, how we behave in this strike can also impact our careers moving forward. So,
right.
How do you feel about all of this? And then specifically, the Directors Guild of America also had a contract negotiation earlier this summer, and they signed their deal with the AMPTP. They were like, it's cool, guys. Like, your terms, cool with us. People have a lot of feelings about those contracts. Apparently, they only had 41% participation in the vote. Mm-hmm. And of that 41%, 87% agreed to ratify the agreement. The overwhelming amount of DGA members were unsupportive of this contract. They just didn't show up to vote, which you can't be upset and then not vote. So you get what you get in that case. Unfair. But how do you feel? I mean, the DGA, them deciding not to strike, I know, a lot of people then were like, oh, but what will SAG do? So how do you feel?
One, I do think it's funny that most of the directors, the reason why they voted to accept the deal was because they wanted to get back to work.
But also, a lot of them are also in the AMPTP.
And now it's funny because there is no work.
Bloop. As I said on TikTok, what they going to be directing? Nature documentaries and porn?
I do feel, it was a question about my feelings. I do feel happy that SAG-AFTRA is striking alongside the WGA, because, you know, strength in numbers. Like, this really could have been a WGA only protest,
which would have
especially
been
with
crazy. We would have been watching improv.
we would have, which they do,
But
but
like we would have been watching wholly improv activities.
I don't know. Imagine watching your favorite show go from like every line delivery is important to yes and oh, that's crazy.
The bear. Yes, and chef.
Yes, chef. And I thought, by the way, could I take a break? Yeah.
Could I maybe smoke a cigarette?
Could I maybe smoke meth? But no, I do feel confident in the strike, and you know, because social media is a bigger player in this strike, and these CEOs are already making dumb behind comments, you know, for optics wise, I it's in the bag for me. That's how I'm feeling about it. How do you feel?
I mean, it's just given. I've been calling it hot strike summer since the WGA went out there. They said we not finna do this today. The actors, I knew they was about it when they first of all they voted to authorize that strike. I said they're not coming to play with y'all. Then when those first 300 major celebrities sent that letter to the negotiating committee to be like, what y'all need to make sure you do is get what we need. I said, oh, the actors, they didn't come to play. They wasn't coming out here to be soft, to be in their feelings. They said, we're here to fight. Right. And honestly, I feel, I mean, obviously it's a scary time. Like, you know, we have a number of friends who are early career professionals in the industry right now who are working at like assistant levels. And like, we know those are some of the first people that get cut when everything kind of falls apart. And so I'm obviously concerned and in prayer for, you know, my friends. And I have friends who are actors who I'm just like, I know y'all ain't made enough money to be okay for 2 years. And so obviously I'm a little concerned about them in that regards, but like, I'm hoping that things will get better. I'm hoping that, you know, in terms of the stuff that the writers were fighting for, in terms of being able to fight for longer seasons, that's going to impact all of us and give more work to the entire, you know, creator economy. And so I'm hoping that these strikes will be beneficial in all of the ways that are necessary to really make this a sustainable career, because it's just wild to me that people are getting paychecks where the stamp is worth more than the check. The fact that Kendrick Sampson, who played a very cute light-skinned man on a very popular Black show on a network, y'all just need to know who that is or you don't. The fact that he had 56 checks that totaled like $30 in residuals is insanity.
Like all of the 56?
All of the total checks amounted. I'm about to just double check my words, but I'm pretty sure that it was 56. I know 56 was correct. I think the number might be wrong, but the number wasn't high. Right. Like the number was like very, very small.
And we're talking about key players on the show too.
Right. Like we're not talking about random men. We're talking about somebody who like was important to the show.
Right.
But I just think that it's very important. As I'm looking, it's just very important that we all are just. I don't remember where he posted this, so we're just gonna take my word for it, guys. Because I don't remember where he posted it, and my phone is dying. But I just think it's a little wild, and so I'm just hoping that we're able to make it do what it do, because this is crazy.
Were you surprised that SAG voted to strike?
No. I think the thing is, like, when we look at the history of the unions, this is not, the WGA and SAG have both struck before now, whereas the DGA only struck once in their entire history, and it was for 12 minutes. It was like I don't remember the exact dates anymore, but it was like 1980 something, and it was for like 12, it's somewhere between 12 and 14 minutes, because the AMPTP said it was 12 minutes. They said it was 14. But my point being, they didn't even do an hour. So, like, if they had struck, that would have been the surprise. Versus, like, SAG and WGA is about it. They don't care.
I gotta say, I was a bit surprised by SAG, only because they did the like extending the deadline.
But see the
Because
extension. So what Fran Drescher said when she called them people out at the press conference. If y'all have not seen that
mm,
press conference, y'all need to go watch. Okay, Fran was in there coming for that Oscar. Okay, and she was like, basically, she was like, we feel duped because really the AMPTP's only reason for wanting to extend out for 2 weeks was to be able to allow Barbie and Oppenheimer to get promoted. Because look at it, all the premieres got to happen for
right,
that movie. And then the other one at the UK one, they got to walk the red carpet and then walk out. But the premieres
mm,
happened for both of those movies.
solidarity.
So
I, I like that.
she called them out. And I just
Right,
feel like that's crazy. Like, it wasn't a good faith negotiation. It was just to get your little dollars off,
which is insane
which is
because
insane.
they know that. Yeah, no, that's.
Mm, let's
But
see. Yes.
let's get into what the strike is about.
Yes, let's do
I
it.
did mention with the 1960 um, strike that residuals are a thing. You did just mention that
Right.
Kendrick Sampson, out of however many checks, it did not total to more than 100 for sure.
Brandy Evans had I stitched a video on her TikTok where she got a 1 cent check. Brandy Evans being one of the lead actors on a very popular show about Black women at a fictional strip club in the South. So I just feel like there's no reason that you are on. It's like, I don't know if y'all have ever seen that video of TLC talking about how they were broke, but they had the #1 album in the world. Like, it very much gives that.
Mm-hmm.
When Left Eye was like, I'm gonna break it down for you. How you can have the #1 album in the world and not have a penny to your name. Like, it very much gives that
Right.
every time we talk about these residuals. So then the next one that's like ridiculous and it's crazy. So what people don't understand is when you audition for television and film, you do what's called a self-tape. You self-tape at a number of levels. So you'll get like an initial self-tape, and then they may do another one for you, and they may do a virtual or in-person callback, but you're probably taping at least once or twice for every role that you're auditioning for. Back in the day, self-taping used to be a thing, or like being put on tape was something that you would do with a casting director. So a casting director would call you in for an audition and you would go to that office and they would put you on tape. Now, after COVID, and also just like it started to shift a little bit before COVID, the thing is self-taping at home. And it's self-taping, which means all of the cost and all of the equipment that used to be at the casting director's office, you have to have. So that's why actors are buying backgrounds. We have lights. Some people, if you have a crappy camera, you may buy a second camera so that way you can tape. For your virtual callbacks, you're on Zoom, but you still need all of the same equipment. So it's like, it can be very expensive depending on, like, if you have an Android, you probably do have to buy a camera because, you know, and those cameras can run you $500, $600, $700, $800, $900, $1,000. You know, like lights, you can get cheap lights, but like I have cheapish lights. You know, my light set was like $35, $40, but like they're not the most amazing lights. People who have like really amazing softbox lights, those cost like $200 a pop. Like, people have teleprompters, because you know why we have teleprompters? Because these auditions want to be 8, 10, 12, 14, 20 pages with 2 and 3 day turnarounds. During pilot season, you're taping for multiple shows. If you have 3 auditions and each audition has 10 pages, that is 30 pages of material that you are expected to know well enough to audition with, and
And
not be
managing.
like, you're supposed, and you don't have to memorize it. They always tell you don't have to, because they legally have to tell you that, because they would have to pay you if you memorize it, if
Mm-hmm.
they require you to memorize it. But like, if I do my audition and I'm looking like this and I am reading the lines off of the page versus somebody who has memorized it, or at least is teleprompting it out and therefore
Right.
can look up and, like, do it, obviously that's the person who's going to get the thing. So between the cost of self-taping and the amount of material in the auditions, the audition process has just gotten very, very crazy, and it's been cost prohibitive for newer actors who are trying to audition professionally.
And all of it to be unpaid too is.
Unpaid for you to maybe get the role, to then be underpaid when you get there.
And this brings me to one of the scariest things I've read.
The wildest shit that I have heard in a long ass time.
Just, it's literally something out of the Twilight Zone.
Baby, the Twilight Zone couldn't have came up with this.
Well, whatchamacallit did.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the studios would like for AI to be incorporated in future filmings. And what this means for the Screen Actors Guild is that they would like to scan background actors and use their image for literally the rest of eternity.
And only pay them for one day of work as a background actor. So it's whatever that rate is. Background actors, I want you to understand, like, do not really make money. Like, you might make, depending on how long you're there, you may make $1,000 in a day. Which, like, yes, if you're a background actor who's on set 5 days a week, sure, you're making money in that sense. But most people are not on set 5 days a week. You're also not always guaranteed to be making $1,000. Like, sometimes it's like, if it's a 2-hour shoot, you might make $300. Like,
right.
But one day of work, your image in perpetuity.
Forever. Which means
forever, forever, ever, forever, ever.
You could be 96.
And you still gonna be 21 somewhere. And the movie that just came out this year, but you know you 96, but you 21 right there. You in movies you never heard of before.
And when your grandkids ask you, how much are they paying you for this? Oh, they paid me already.
Caleb, can you imagine, especially like you as somebody who doesn't cuss, now they done scanned your image and you out here playing a gangster. Everybody put your motherfucking hands in the air before I fuck you up, bitch.
Me just watching like...
The second I would see that, I'm calling you immediately. Be like, I cannot believe the money has changed you, Caleb.
The money has changed.
The devil has taken a hold of your life.
No, that's some scary stuff right there.
That's some scary shit.
You would not be needed.
But it's like the fact it's like they want the WGA also, one of the big points of their negotiation where it hinged was AI, and studios wanting to use AI to write things. Like AI, robots replacing us is not unique to the entertainment industry. Look at the big delivery company that you have that also has a streaming service. They using robots in some of their warehouses. Like, it's giving, we're all going to be replaced. And if we just think that it's only in the entertainment industry and we try to like ignore it, right, it's going to happen to all of us. We're all going to get snatched. So we need to pay attention.
I got the perfect movie idea right now, and it's post.
Don't pitch it. You can't pitch content either.
I'm not. Oh, whoops.
Because then if they take it from you, you didn't gave them idea. Now you didn't work for a struck company.
All right.
Hush.
Well, that will be said afterwards. And as for my people, if you want to hear what the pitch was,
as long as you don't work for a struck company,
strike at those studios.
Yeah.
And get this over with.
One of the big misconceptions about Hollywood, right? And I think that's the biggest industry. It's like we should stop calling it Hollywood. We should say the television and film industry, because Hollywood gives old glamour, it gives money, it gives fun. Right. But like everyone thinks that like when you see somebody on TV that they're making money, and that is not the case. One of the big things that I've learned over the past couple of days, if you are a SAG-AFTRA member, to be able to get healthcare, you need to meet the minimum. The minimum amount of money that you have to make in a year to acquire healthcare is $26,000. In the United States of America, I don't know about other countries, $26,000 is not a lot of money. Okay, I made more than that last year when I was working like 2 and 3 part-time jobs. So it's really not a lot of money. 87% of the SAG-AFTRA membership does not qualify for healthcare.
And just to put that in perspective, there's 160,000 members in the guild, which puts that 140,000 people do not qualify for healthcare.
So only 13% or 20,000 people in the guild have healthcare. And that goes back to residuals being low, seasons being short, so there's less episodes, and there's issues of billing. Like sometimes people are billed not as what they truly are, so that way the studios can get away with paying them less. Like it is not the same industry that it was in the 60s and 70s when people were like making their money as actors. Like there used to be career background actors who literally made enough money every year to get their health care, and they were always in the background, and that was their thing. And now you can't do that. And then they want to scan you and use you forever.
Forever is crazy. Like not even for
like the next 10 years.
Right. They said no, we want you forever.
And think about it. Once they've scanned you, they don't just have to use you in the background no more. You could be a lead in a movie now.
And also, that's literally a plot point. But yeah, let's say you're religious, and then they have your character doing the opposite of what you believe in.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because if I saw an AI image of me out here messing around with Orishas and whatnot, I'm fighting everybody.
Fighting everybody.
I'm fighting. Me and my Bible are coming up to the studio. Because when I throw it at your head, I need you to understand how I felt. And I'm going to get one of them real thick King James editions.
Nah, you gotta use that Bible to exorcise the AI from the movie.
Comes to the movie premiere in the name of Jesus. But it's crazy. People are not making money no more. It's ridiculous.
And again, just like when we talked about the writers, this isn't like as much as people do want to build that career. It's not a career for so many people. Like it's a job that they happen to do.
And it's like, it can't be a career because people aren't making enough money to make it a career. There are so many people. I read this story about one of the writers on the show that turned the Big Red Inn into the company that it is now. And they were saying that the entire time that they worked on that show, they had a day job and they made more money at that day job than they did as a writer on the show.
People are fighting tooth and nail to get into this industry and then barely able to make do.
Yeah.
Which is why this strike is going to work out well for the strikers because they're used to not being paid.
They're used to not being paid. And one of the big things that was crazy that there was like a Deadline article last week, and one of the quotes was, "The end game," this is somebody from an anonymous studio executive, "The end game is to allow things to drag on until union members start losing their apartments and losing their houses." Another studio exec said, "It's cruel but necessary evil." I just feel like when we get to the pearly gates of heaven, I can't say what I usually say about my express lane, but there's going to be an express lane to heaven and there's going to be an express lane to hell. And whoever these two people are that said this,
my thing is,
y'all gonna be right down there with Satan.
When I was reading the article, I did see that, like that must have been said in the meeting because it said that several insiders confirmed that statement,
which is crazy. Like that's I don't know, y'all. I really have gotten sensitive in my old age and like nice and whatnot. I don't know where that came from. But like, how mean and evil do you have to be to, instead of just negotiating and coming to an agreement that is beneficial to the people who are literally making you the money, so that way your twin jet can have your private jet can have a twin sister, you're gonna let people be homeless? But no, it's getting wild out here. But as we kind of started to allude to earlier, the strike is disruptive. Right? Strikes are meant to be disruptive. It's not about, so nobody was calling you to ask you if your favorite shows had already come out to see if you'd be okay with the strike. Like the point of a strike is to be disruptive. It is to stop work. It is to create economic disadvantages so that way companies, make decisions in favor of workers. It also does mean, because it's an entertainment strike, that as audience members, we are going to have to be patient and we are going to have to make some sacrifices. There is a lot of things that the actors cannot do during the strike. We're not going to name them all, but if you do want to see the strike notice to members, you can Google it to read the entire thing. But acting obviously is not happening in numbers of capacities, at least for this contract. You will still, there are some things that still are allowed to be done, and those are some nuances that we're not going to get into, but there are some contracts that are allowed to go on. Your entertainment journalists and your just journalists in general that are covered under SAG-AFTRA, they are still allowed to do their jobs. Some reality TV stars are SAG and some of them are not, so you might be able to still have, I think Big Brother should probably still be going on. Right. Maybe, things like that. Love Island probably will be okay, but there are, some are SAG and some are not. But the big things that you can't do right now, no promotion of struck companies. Gaelyn, what is promotion of struck companies? I'm so glad that you asked that, young person who did that. What that means is, I'm going to read this briefly and quickly. No tours, no personal appearances, no interviews, no conventions, no fan expos. So yes, Comic-Con, they not going to be there, babes. No festivals, no for your consideration events, so they cannot campaign for their Emmys right now. No panels, no premieres, screenings, no award shows. They can't even go to the Emmys. Let's start there too. No junkets, no podcast appearances. So no, like some of my friends who were on TV shows that I wanted to have on for this season, they can't come on right now. No promoting on their own social media pages. No studio showcases. And that's pretty much everything in terms of promoting of work. But it does mean that like movies are still going to come out, but like you're not going to have your favorite actors going up to the Breakfast Club or going to the premieres, things like that. No content. Also, in terms of what that means for influencers and content creators, it means that we should not be creating content about struck work and struck companies. So that means that as an influencer, if you are invited to a premiere, you cannot go if you would like to join the union one day. It means that you should not be doing reviews of new television shows or movies. Also, you should not be cosplaying as characters from struck work. So if it's a character that only exists in a comic book, you're fine. But like you can't cosplay as, I can't even name any of the things you can't cosplay as, but you can't cosplay as. So like last year when we did our Halloween episode, Caleb and I dressed up as characters from shows. We can't do that again this year if their strike is still going on. Right. So no cosplaying. If you do any of these things, and again, I encourage you to read the strike notice if this is something that is important to you and things that you want to know, it is considered scabbing, which is doing struck work in place of actors for non-union wages or union wages. But if you're doing what would be considered union work, no, ixnay, don't do that.
Because the strike is serious.
Very
and
serious.
Let's not forget like what the strike is aiming towards. Okay, it's aiming towards something that's fair, something that's just, not something favorable or desirable, just something just at the end of the day. And so like,
and just in fair, and honestly really like putting the people at the lowest tier of the guilds in the best position to be successful, right? We know our movie stars, our Tom Cruises, our Brad Pitts, our Denzel Washingtons, etc. They're not the people for whom the money is the big thing, right? We know they're making their money. The AI thing is still important because if you ain't got to pay Denzel Washington to show up on set and you can just scan him one time, that's obviously way cheaper. But obviously these protections are really more for the people, like we said, the background actors, the career recurring and guest star actors, people who like, you're like, I've seen their face before, but I don't know their name. Those are the people that the guild is really trying to protect right now. That being said, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, even if you don't have any desire of joining the unions one day, it would be highly ethical of you to just not participate in any of the struck behavior.
And remember that like the union does not just cover actors. If you want to do voiceover work, if you want to be a journalist on screen, if you want to be an influencer, there are influencer agreements that are under SAG. That will impact your ability to do any of it. So I just encourage people to think about what they're doing. To that regard, it is obviously going to affect us on No Sleep Till Hollywood because, as you guys know, we do a lot of TV and movie reviews. And so we will not be doing that for the foreseeable future. Obviously episodes like this that are educational, we will continue to try and do. We're having, internal conversations about like what that looks like in terms of like, this obviously is an episode. We're not necessarily thinking that every week we're going to do a strike update, but we might teach you guys like, I don't know. I literally can't think of the history of like the camera. I don't know. We'll find something. But they're going to be more educationally based episodes as opposed to us chit-chatting about our opinions.
Yeah. And, no matter how big of an event no matter how big of an event, we're not going to cover it. We're going to do our best to make sure that this strike goes.
You are listening to information from the SAG-AFTRA or WGA websites or platforms or people like us who have taken the time to really do the research and ask the questions so we can give it to you. But educate yourselves. Talk positively about the strike. So if somebody is being nasty and negative about something, my favorite TV show isn't coming on because of the WGA strike, you actually can correct them and say, your favorite TV show is not coming back because the networks and streamers refuse to give these artists a fair deal and compensate them fairly and protect their creative property fairly. I money and are able to donate. There are a number of funds. We'll make sure that we link them in our descriptions and things, because at the moment I'm blanking on all the names, but there are a number of funds. You can also go out and walk the picket lines, whether you are a member or industry person or not. You can go walk the picket lines, drop off food and water to those people directly, but also watch your favorite shows and movies. Go spend your money. So that way, when these numbers come back and they're in negotiations, they can say, because one of the big things the networks and streamers are saying is that like, oh, we don't really know how many people are really watching this. Go run your streamers up. So that way we can prove the number one way people are watching these things is through streaming, and that there is a need to really fairly compensate folks. So make sure you're running your streaming up. If they tell us otherwise and we do your favorite content, watch new content. Yes, your favorite comfort show, do that long running medical drama that everybody's always watching. You can keep watching that too. But if there's a new thing that's out that's interesting, that's exciting to you, watch that and support that. Because the other big thing that happens in these strikes is when we come back, a lot of shows don't make it. That's how we got rid of that very popular show about 4 Black women. And that's why we ended in the middle of the episode, is because the strike happened and then the network decided that that show wasn't important when they came back. So make sure that we are supporting the shows that we want to see return to us when all is said and done.
Unlike the studios, I think we can call this for a close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we can walk away from this knowing that we did the episode in good faith, and that we said everything that needed to be said and did our best to keep television and film afloat.
That we did. And let this be a record. No matter what the times are, no matter what the situation is, no matter how dire we are not giving away our rights for our AI likeness, okay? Never. If y'all see the signature, it wasn't mine.
Ain't finna AI me.
All right? Okay? That's all I need to say. We not doing that over here.
Listen, one thing about it, 20 things for certain. Can't nobody Gaelyn like Gaelyn, okay? Who else was going to give you break every chain? Not AI. But yeah, this has been another episode of the No Sleep Till Hollywood podcast. He is Caleb McDonald.
Yes, and she is Gaelyn D. Smith.
Thank you. You can follow the podcast at No Sleep Till Hollywood on the Instagrammies. You can follow me, Gaelyn, at G Smitty with 2 T's and 4 Y's on anything with an @ symbol, to include Spill. Spill kind of falling off, but you can still follow me there. You can't follow me on Threads because I'm not doing that. I'm so sorry.
You can follow me at all of those and more at Caleb Subtitles, because I just be everywhere.
Until next time, guys. Good night. Good morning. Bonjour, bonsoir, adios. Bye, guys.
Ciao.